ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 358. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi,
I feel particularly old today.
Oh, why?
Just because of this whole fucking day. I talked about it on the pre-show in the previous episode, but I did have some medical scares this morning that were frustrating, and it just makes me feel so old today.
Yeah, and well, you know, it happens, and will continue to happen more frequently. Because that's how life works, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
It's not so much breaking the ice as getting used to it.
There you oh my God. That's the saddest sentence I've heard in so long. It's just getting used to freezing to death. Housekeeping.
Yes, sir.
Guy is here. So he's going to be here after the show for the after party.
That's exciting.
This is our last episode in our weird Justin's vacation schedule.
Right.
So people on the uncut, everything should be normal releases after this, theoretically, anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
People on the regular feed, you should have noticed no interruptions.
Yeah.
Also, this it's kind of a weird one. This episode is going to heavily feature YouTube clips of music.
Mm-hmm. Well, just music clips. They're probably from YouTube.
Yeah, they're from YouTube.
We don't need to specify that they are from YouTube.
Right. Internet music clips from unspecified online music and video databases.
Perfect.
But the thing is, we don't hear them while we're recording, and the uncut people won't hear them.
Oh, okay. Exciting.
So I would encourage I would encourage people that listen to the uncut to, you know, maybe once you make it through the first part of the show, flip over to the regular feed when it comes out, or listen to both, or whatever. Right. I would like to make us a YouTube playlist to release alongside this episode, and I will do my best to put them in the order that we have the clips in the show, so you could theoretically open that YouTube playlist and kind of listen along.
Yeah. And hopefully the links in that playlist last at least a month before they get taken down for DMCA.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just want to put that out there. Kind of a weird episode on many fronts.
Yeah.
My week. Mm-hmm. I went to New Jersey for 4 days.
Right.
And I played more RimWorld, which is still good, and I still like it and recommend it. I've also been getting really into Sniper Elite 4.
Okay.
Which I think, did I talk about this recently?
I think so, but I don't recall. You might have just talked about it in the Discord.
I'm a few more missions in, and it's just a really fun stealth action game. I never looked at it because it has the most generic, boring, shit garbage name of any video game.
Yeah.
This side of like, I mean, you know, you get like the Call of Duty ripoffs on mobile. That's like Call of War, shooting gun duty.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me.
It sounds like one of those. It's not. It's a really good stealth action game. It feels very, very kind of MGS to me, where it's not like you can get in firefights and stuff, but if you're just full on trying to guns blazing it, you're going to go down pretty quick. But you get little traps and stuff that you can lay that's really fun. You can all the levels are like just real big kind of sandboxy stuff. Like you've got objectives on the map, but it's big and open. You can kind of go whatever direction you want, whatever path you want to choose to get to your objectives.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. Obviously, you're a sniper. You have a sniper rifle, so you get to do lots and lots of.
Called that.
I know, lots and lots of sniping. There's a story that's just like totally forgettable garbage.
Right.
It's just like I'm Soldier McMahon, and I'm in World War II, and I'm here to shoot Hitler's face off, or whatever the fucking I don't know.
I have to rescue John Hardpower from the enemies.
It's just your standard,
a
buzz cut white guy with a gun, You're like, all right, yeah, cool. But just the actual gameplay is really fun. And what I love about it is it's stealth action, but the enemies are just dumb enough. Because I think this is a key element that I think some stealth games miss out on. And what makes MGS so fun is that the enemies need to be kind of fucking dumb.
They need to be dumb enough that you can feel like you're taking advantage of them.
Yes.
without having to be an actual military genius.
Yes. And now this game does have like extreme hard modes where it turns off all the assists and everything.
Right.
But I have it on like easy mode.
Right.
But the enemies are pretty dumb. Like this, let me give you an example. You can go into a bush and you can whistle to attract one of them over.
Yeah.
And let's say I whistle and a German soldier comes over and I pop up out of the bushes and I stab him in the neck and I throw him in the bush with me.
Yeah.
Then his friend behind him is like, "Oh, what happened?" And then I whistle for him and he comes over and I stab him in the neck and I throw him in the bush.
That reminds me of Tomb Raider. When I was playing the recent Tomb Raider games, there was a bit where you can cover yourself in mud to disguise yourself and then hide up against a wall that's all made up of leaves. And if as long as you're up against the wall, because I was on easy, they can't see you. And so I would just wait for somebody to walk by and then stab them in the neck and they would fall to the ground. And then somebody else would walk by, see the corpse, freak out, and get close enough that I could stab them in the neck and they'd fall to the ground. And then there'd end up being just like this pile of 14 bodies in front of me and nobody could see me. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's basically that. And when they do see you, it puts like a big bright red marker where they think you are.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great, because then you just run around the corner and just point at the marker, and then they run over there like, "Where is he?" And you set a landmine there to go off when the second one of them goes across it and just blows up like 50 of them.
Right.
So it, like I said, it makes you feel really smart and powerful, at least on the easy difficulty. It's just a really super fun stealth action game. I'm like bummed out that I haven't been more aware of it, because I started it on Xbox a while back, and that might be where I'm remembering I talked about it. And I played like a mission, but it really kind of doesn't come into it until like the second and third missions, which are like, because the first mission's in broad daylight. But the consecutive missions, it's just a lot of fun. It's just real fun. It's real good to play on my deck, and I played it on most of my flight.
Yeah.
I also became determined to play Kid Icarus Uprising with fixed controls.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Kid Icarus Uprising, and I was like, that's just a fantastic game, mired in bad ideas.
Yes. It's a phenomenal game trapped behind the worst control scheme.
So I loaded it up in Citra, and then I loaded Citra up into Steam OS, and then I loaded that straight into the Steam UI, and there was already a community config for the Steam Deck for Kid Icarus Uprising.
Nice.
And so what it does is it lets you do the view mode where the second screen, the touch screen, is the little tiny square in the corner. And it restricts the area of your right trackpad to that area of your physical screen. So suddenly your right trackpad is just like a regular analog stick.
Nice.
And you can just play Kid Icarus Uprising in 720p, looks gorgeous, in Citra, on deck. And it works great. Except the other bad control scheme idea that they introduced into Kid Icarus Uprising, which I had forgotten about, which is that if you push all the way a direction on the 3DS joystick, it makes you like do a dash maneuver. So you can't really just walk around. You have to like touch the stick lightly so that you don't dash. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to restrict the zone on the stick and then set like the right stick to dash. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I'll say this. It works substantially better than on 3DS.
Nice.
Which is pretty exciting. God, that game needs a remake. So freaking... What upsets me is all they got to do is give it regular twin stick third-person shooter controls. Bam, done. Instantly fixed.
Right.
Fixed game.
And it's not like nobody has figured out twin stick third-person shooter controls before.
Tell that to Nintendo. I don't know, man. Yeah. It's very frustrating. Nintendo and their fucking control schemes.
Don't worry, they'll just release a specialized stand for your 3DS that you can use to play the game with.
Oh my god, the hand cramper. That's what I called it. Anyway, Saturn, tell me which Dragon Quest you've been playing this week.
11.
I know it.
So yeah, I was between games, needed something to play, and I was like, well, I can just tinker at the Xbox version of Dragon Quest 11 a little bit, because I didn't ever play that when it came out.
Yeah.
And so now I'm at the end of Act 3. and wrapping up the Xbox version.
Now, did you start our known Final Fantasy superfan Bob in the Discord started Dragon Quest XI? Is that what spurred you to? Okay,
no, I was already most of the way through by the time he said he was going to start.
Okay.
I just happened to already be playing it, but no, it's still good. I was a little worried because when I first tried it when the Xbox version came out, I bounced off it pretty quickly, and my fear was that it was going to turn into something like Dragon Quest VIII, where I loved the game enough to play it back to back when it came out, and every time I've tried to replay it, I'm like, this starts too slow and I can't enjoy it, and I don't get anywhere.
Dragon Quest VIII does start so slow. 11 does too, but 11 is at least kind of charming while it's doing it. 8 just feels real dry.
Yeah. And,
is 8 the one where you got to like be a fucking hamster for like half an hour?
Yes.
And you're like, why? What are we doing? What's happening?
The hamster is awesome.
It's not though.
He's awesome. Anyway, you can give him cheese in battle and he'll kill shit. Anyway.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I'm playing it on Xbox, and it's weird because it's in 4K on my Xbox, but it's the Switch version. So it has the draw distance of the Switch.
Yeah.
So things are constantly popping in.
Weird.
And also it has the lighting system of the Switch. So if you walk in or out of a room, all of the lights will drastically change color and tone around you.
Square Enix, why?
I don't know. It's
why
the
can't
dumbest.
You just fucking A?
But otherwise, it's still a very good game. I still recommend it, obviously. But
has someone fixed the PC version at least? Okay.
Well, yes and no. So somebody has modded in the textures from the original release from Dragon Quest XI. However, the lighting engine is so baked into it that they can't. They were able to fix the draw distance, they were able to fix the textures, but the lighting is still fucked even with the mods. There are areas where if you change rooms, suddenly it goes from blue tone to yellow tone instantly. Weird. And it's very harsh. But other than that, the PC version is fixed now.
Yeah.
Also, I tried to go back to Ori because there was a Game Pass quest for it. And man, I do not enjoy that game.
Yeah.
I want to, like, because the genre is a genre that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But every time I try to play Ori, there's something about it that just does not work for me.
I tried it once or twice, and I didn't like it. It was one of those things where I could objectively discern that it was a well-made game.
Right. Yeah.
And that it looked really good and sounded really good, but
Absolutely.
I didn't like how it looked or played or sounded.
Yeah. The physics feel wrong to me. The way that all the enemies and attacks bounce off of each other slightly bugs
Does everything feel weird and floaty to you?
Yes, very floaty. And also it kind of has like that cross between Disney and Oscar bait feel to it that I don't know what it is, just turns me off.
It occurred to me that Oscar Bait was not the name of a person.
Hello, I'm Oscar Bait.
Oh, really?
But no, so I turned off Ori and instead decided to play Mighty Goose, which is so much better. Holy shit, it's a good game.
I've been out of town, so I haven't gotten loaded up on my Xbox yet, but I'm excited.
So it's great. It's also on Steam and everything else. So if you don't want to play it on Xbox, play it wherever. But since you already have Game Pass, play it there. If you haven't heard or played Mighty Goose yet, it's Metal Slug in space, but you're a goose. And that's all they needed to tell me. And it's great.
That's it. That's perfect.
It's so good. And like, I'm not going to say that it's perfect or that it's 100% on par with Metal Slug, because I am not enough of an aficionado to say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm interested to play it as someone who has played a lot of Metal Slug and see how it stacks up. But man, just looking at like the animation on the machine gun, like it really wants to be Metal Slug.
Oh yeah,
by the looks of it. Like,
and it even has an announcer that will tell you what weapons you pick up.
Oh my God.
And I was very disappointed when I got a rocket launcher and it just goes rocket launcher.
It didn't say launcher?
Yeah, I know. I was very sad that it didn't tell me about my rocket launcher. And but otherwise it is very good. I really enjoyed it. I went into it just thinking it was going to be some cheesy indie flash quality game, and no, it's a lot of fun. Very, very worth playing. Mighty Goose, go find it. It's worth it.
Oh man, cannot wait.
Yes.
Let's do the news. First up, David Ward, the co-founder of Ocean Software, has passed away.
That's tragic.
Sad to hear. Ocean Software did like a shitload of licensed stuff.
That was their big claim to fame, was licensed stuff. A lot of microcomputer stuff as well, both in Europe and here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But on consoles, a lot of licensed stuff.
Oh, yeah. Freaking tons. Including Eek the Cat. So... there you go.
True. Also, RoboCop was their first huge selling game. And they also did just a bunch of shit.
I remember seeing their logo all over the place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They did a ton of games.
They also brought over a bunch of games from Japan that didn't otherwise make it to Western regions. They did a lot of not just localizations, but like completely original ports of games that already had ports in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's you can find some weird ocean versions of like some of the Taito platformers and stuff.
Their Wikipedia has a screenshot of the Highlander game for C64, and it just looks like such dog shit. And I'm imagining like little kid Saturn being like, "Hell yeah!"
I have it on floppy disk.
Oh God,
it's not good.
I knew it.
It's not good at all.
EA and Middle-earth Enterprises announce EA has gotten the Lord of the Rings rights for mobile gaming. No word on possible re-releases of prior EA Lord of the Rings games. The 3 Lord of the Rings movie tie-in games on like PS2 and Friends were
very well received.
Very well received. Yeah, yes. People like those a whole lot. Specifically, Return of the King is remembered as like the best of the 3. I've played none of them. I think I played one of them on GameCube, and I was like, "That's boring," and I moved on.
When Return of the King came out, that was one where we expected to sell a bunch of copies just because it was a licensed game off of a big property, and we sold a fuckload of copies. We were not prepared for how many were going to be sold.
So it'd be nice to see some of that come back out. What I'd love, like if they did like, a collection. Here's all 3 of them, up-resed. That'd be nice. That'd be nice to see. Maybe add some modern amenities. Like I know what I remember is the viewing angle felt so restrictive in that one. I think those are games that would really benefit from a widescreen.
I could see that.
Although maybe they supported it because those consoles supported widescreen. I should have a widescreen TV.
Not too many games on those consoles supported widescreen. So.
Valve loses bid to end antitrust case and must defend themselves in court.
Yeah, and when I first read that, I was like, well, that's weird because there's so many competitors to Valve. You got Epic, you got Microsoft, you got GOG, you got itch.io. There's plenty. And then I started looking into more of the specifics, and it was saying things like the contract you have to sign to get a game published on Steam says you cannot sell it for a lower price elsewhere without having to pay a penalty.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, so there is some stuff in there that maybe they do need to be brought down to ground level on.
I'm always, even when it's companies I like, and I don't know that I'd say I like Valve, I just tolerate them the most. But I've given them enough money, specifically in like the last 2 months. But any antitrust case that's going to look into how a company's running and how it's treating people and other companies and creators is good for us. I'm in favor of that. Microsoft has patented a method to authenticate discs for Series S users, which would be pretty big.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
They showed that it would basically authenticate through your local network to some other device that has a disk drive. I don't know if they mean just go buy a Series X or if they are talking about using a PC that still has a disk drive or if they mean some other standalone device.
Yeah, or just plug a USB disk drive into your Series S.
Right, yeah, maybe.
But Xbox games don't run off the damn disc anyway.
Right, but the whatever the watermark is on there that authenticates that it's a legit copy and not a burned copy, apparently that can't be read by just a universal DVD or Blu-ray drive, so it would have to be a specifically made for it drive. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Nintendo says the risk of losing user base between the Switch and its successor is a, quote, major concern.
They probably should have thought that during the Wii era.
No, I was told the Wii U was targeting core gamers. They said core gamers like 100 million freaking times.
Because core gamers love Game & Wario.
Then they came out of the gate with Nintendo Land or World or whatever
Nintendo
it is,
Land,
which was a fun game. But
That's a
man,
great
I
game.
don't know a lot of core gamers that were like, yeah, this is what I was after.
I don't know why.
It was really fun though.
It is a great game.
So I don't know. I want to say that I'm on record as saying when the Switch came out, but I may not be. So I may just be like talking my past self up when I was totally wrong then and maybe wrong now. I feel like the problem is they've gotten rid of their handheld division. Basically, they can't release a new 3DS now, the successor to the 3DS, and then do a console. They just can't. Yeah. They can't go back to that. And now all of a sudden they're in a situation where they're like, "Hey, we're Nintendo. We don't want to. Now we'll do 50 million revisions of a console, but when we release the next console, we want it to be real different. That's our whole thing."
Right.
And I don't know how they do that with the Switch without losing a lot of people,
I think they kind of put themselves in a hole where they just kind of have to release another Switch. Like maybe they could release a different optional controller with it, or one that comes in the box that's required for new games or something. Yeah. But I don't know how they get away from it.
I imagine their concern there is that any time that they've released a system that's just like, hey, the old one, but some new stuff, like the Wii U, or really even the GameCube was just kind of, it's N64, but it's got some new stuff.
But it's got discs.
Yeah. So, and both of those did not do fantastic for them.
The new 3DS did pretty well, though.
That's true. But I mean, really, that's
just a revision. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm curious to see where Nintendo is in 5 years. I'm still
Super Nintendo was basically Nintendo, but better.
I guess, yeah. I guess it was just so early, and it just felt like such a leap that I didn't, in my head. I'll say this. I think there's a Nintendo phone coming. That's my wild prediction.
Yeah.
They're going to go Nintendo phone and Switch 2. That's where we're going to end up.
I could see that.
Nintendo reports that most NSO users have upgraded to NSO Plus in North America, and Kirby 64 was added to NSO Plus. So there you go. Value for your money.
I am surprised to hear that most users have upgraded.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I think people are so accustomed to high dollar subscription plans that $80 a year, they're just like, okay, that's fine.
And that's for the family plan, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm on the family plan.
Right. Because the normal plan, I think, is just $50 a year.
Yeah, I think, $50 a year is to people in this subscription-laden future we live in, $50 a year is basically free. You might as well be giving it away. They're like, $50 a year, sure, that's literally $0. You're like, well, it's not,
still won't pay for it. I'm still not there. I'm at the $20 a year mark. That's
I paid for it, and I've not used any of this shit.
You used Animal Crossing.
I've not played the expansion that came with it.
What about Mario Kart? Have you played any of the new Mario Kart levels?
No.
Okay. And you have not used it. Good job. Well
I bought the N64 controller and booted up an N64 game with it, and then I went, that's the N64, and I put it down and put it in the drawer and turned it off.
Nice.
Bethesda and Disney are teaming up on multiple licensed games. So, all right.
Yeah, I know that they had already announced an Indiana Jones game, which was a Bethesda Disney license.
Yeah.
But they haven't said what these other upcoming licensed titles are. My hope is for a Bethesda-made X-Files game. That's the Disney license I want them to use.
That will never happen.
I know, but I want it.
Never, ever gonna happen. But it would be pretty sweet. That'd be fun.
Wouldn't it?
I'd like that. That'd be real cool. Konami has had their most profitable year ever, mostly carried by, get this, video games.
I never would have thought it if I didn't actually read their chart myself.
I think pachinko company Konami might pivot from pachinko and scammed boards to
Did you look at
games.
Did you look at the chart?
No.
They lost money on pachinko.
No, what?
They lost like 3 billion yen or something on pachinko.
You think maybe it's just like COVID? Maybe pachinko policies are just way down.
They did make some money on their gaming division, which is their casino equipment, the slot machines. Mm-hmm. But on that, they made like 8 billion yen, and on video games, they made like 74 billion yen.
Wow.
And it was just a huge divide there. I think
have not even released a lot of shit.
Yeah, well, I looked through what they released in the last year, and most of it is Japan only. There's a handful of mobile games that came out internationally.
Inevitably some soccer games, I'm sure.
There was their soccer game. There's their baseball game.
And then just what? Compilations?
There was that Castlevania compilation. And I'm guessing a lot of it came from that Yu-Gi-Oh game that's doing really well.
Oh yeah, the new free-to-play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
I started that, and it's a digital card game.
A game.
You know, good on them.
Right.
I wonder if, like, where would Yu-Gi-Oh fall? Would that be that wouldn't be in their video games division?
Yeah, it would be in their video game division,
including the card game.
I don't not the physical card game. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's in their entertainments
Okay.
division, or amusements rather.
There's been yet another Silent Hill leak. The community does not seem happy about it.
I'm just so tired of leaks, and this one looks like it could be legit compared to some of them.
Yeah. Wouldn't the scariest thing they could do be to release a really terrible Silent Hill game, Saturn? Wouldn't that be the scariest thing?
I don't know. They've done it 4 times now. So they did.
Isn't that the most horrifying thing, to have to watch a train wreck slowly get developed and hyped and then released and then know you have to buy it?
My favorite is, as this rumor has grown and more information has leaked from quasi-credible sources, the current rumor, as of recording, is that it's going to be 3 games. One will be a remake, probably of Silent Hill 2. One will be an original title, and one will be a spin-off. And at first, when that was announced, everybody was like, oh, that doesn't sound bad. That odds are one of them is going to be good. And then somebody just posted a picture of Konami's 2012 lineup, and they're like, and we've got 3 new Silent Hill games, and one's a new game, and one's a remake, and one's a spin-off, and they were all shit. So I don't know. My hopes are so low. They're just so low, man.
An SD card powered VMU replacement has been announced. Includes a rechargeable battery, backlit screen, and internal memory that holds 4x the capacity of a standard VMU. And the creator says they are hoping that it will retail for $100. And I'll tell you this much. Mm-hmm. That's a day one purchase for me, because that is suddenly a rechargeable Godzilla virtual pack.
That's true.
So putting that out there.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this. This is cool.
And also, not only can it charge off of a PC or just a USB port or whatever, it can charge from the controller itself. So just having it plugged into your Dreamcast is enough to charge your VMU. Man. That's incredibly exciting to me.
The only other thing that would make me very excited is if the USB port could somehow interface with the computer, and then emulators could interface with it.
Well, that'd be neat.
That would be awesome, but I assume that would crank up the price, because that's totally different hardware. So,
possibly, yeah.
You know. The Switch has outsold the PS4 as of May 2022.
That's a big number.
That is a big number. That's a lot of Switches.
Yeah, I believe that makes it the 3rd highest selling console ever.
Man, what behind what? PS2 and the Wii?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Sega says they're planning multiple remakes and remasters by the end of March 2023. That's real soon.
Yeah, that's within a year. You have any guesses?
Oh God, nothing that I want to put out in the world, because it mostly involves NFTs.
There's obviously that Sonic Origins thing. Yeah. That probably counts.
Yeah, that thing.
I want to see Yakuza Kiwami 3.
If we want to talk about what we want to see, I would love to see a Knights collection.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That is actually, because Knights has aged poorly. I'm just going to say it. And I think adding some modern amenities, up-resing, fixing the controls up a little bit could make it a really awesome, collection of games. You could have Knights, Christmas Nights, the other Knights. It'd be fun. It'd be real fun.
The other Knights.
Yeah, that's what they called it. The other Knights. It was on Wii or whatever. I don't know.
I don't remember the name of it either all of a sudden.
And finally, this is going to shock everyone.
What?
But WATA, the game grading company, is being sued for manipulating retro game prices.
What?
Holy shit, the scam artists that ran a scam got caught for scamming?
That sounds impossible.
Sometimes it sounds impossible in this country, but we'll...
Yeah, the idea of them getting any actual repercussions sounds impossible, but...
Yeah. Good. Fuck you, WATA. I do feel bad for all the people that were duped into grading games with him, because if WATA goes under, then suddenly your graded game is worthless. Yeah, I mean, it's still worth whatever the game is worth, but all of a sudden the grading that you paid for, which you pay, for people that don't know, you pay to have shit graded. It ain't free and it ain't cheap.
And really, the grading is already worthless. It's only being propped up by people claiming that it's worth anything, and I don't think that claim will go away the instant that WATA goes away.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's how NFTs work in the first place. People just say it's worth something, so you know.
Yeah. and I think the WATA stuff, at least for a little while, at least for worthwhile games, may actually go up in price for a little bit if WATA goes away, just because, this was graded back when WATA still existed.
From what I understand about the kind of people that buy graded stuff, I don't see that happening, but I also wouldn't say it's impossible. We'll see.
I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised if a new class of collectors shows up who want to collect shitty WATA games.
Maybe. We'll see.
I hope not.
What I'll say this: if a new game grading company reaches the level of recognizability that WATA had, then all the WATA stuff, if they go under, nobody would give a fucking shit.
Yeah, that'd be gone.
Yeah. Let's talk about the topic at hand. This week we're doing favorite soundtracks.
Yeah.
So, boops and beeps and all that stuff.
It's just a bunch of bloops and bleeps.
As far as notes on this episode, this is not exhaustive or ranked.
Right.
Like all of our top 10 lists, it's really just kind of like, here's some stuff we like in no particular order that we remembered for this episode.
Yeah. As soon as I was done with the things that I wanted to put in this episode, I immediately remembered like 20 other things.
Yeah. And all week I've been humming video game music, trying to think of stuff, and then I can't remember what game it goes to. And I'm like, well, I guess I can't put that on the list because I don't know what it's from.
It's all Lode Runner.
It's just all the Lode Runners. Also, we omitted games with licensed music because that's kind of cheating.
Well, it's not really game music. It's just music that is in a game, and that doesn't feel
so
right.
You're not going to see Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the list. And we've also we've also omitted games that are basically musical compilations, like Smash Brothers.
Right.
Is really just a compilation of a whole bunch of. I mean, there's original Smash Brothers music as well.
Sure, yeah.
But
there's some excellent
really,
original music in Smash Brothers.
It's really just kind of mostly remixes and compilations and stuff like that. And that kind of feels like cheating. We really wanted to be like original video game soundtracks.
Right.
Which is also tough because it's not just your favorite track. 'Cause there's some games that I'm like, oh, I like this one track a lot, but then the rest of the soundtrack is completely forgettable. So it was a little tough to kind of pick some out. Pablo has agreed to put in a few seconds of each track,
just enough that we won't get sued.
I think it's 10 seconds is the limit here. Also, we're keeping it at 10 seconds just because we've got a bunch of them. So we don't want to pad out the whole show entirely. We just want to pad out a little bit of the show.
And we've already probably gone longer than we want to, so it'll be fine.
My first up is Fantasy Zone. This was made by Sega, released in the arcade in 1986, and I played the NES port of this religiously as a kid.
The Tengen port, right?
Yes, the Tengen port. So the soundtrack has kind of always been relatively stuck in my head.
Nice.
I love it. It's light, it's poppy, and it has. So here's I'm going to describe some of these tracks like this throughout the show to the best of my ability, because basically the way I understand how to describe video game music is you'll be like, oh, it's the drums or whatever. There are no actual drums, but basically they're trying to simulate drums.
Right.
But for some instruments, it's hard for me to tell what they're trying to simulate. So I'm just going to say what I think it is, and I guess I would call it like this sort of simulated brassy sound.
Yeah.
In the fantasy, this like jazzy, brassy sort of sound in the Fantasy Zone soundtrack is what makes it over the top good. This was composed by Hiroshi Kawaguchi, who also did lots of other Sega stuff. They worked with Yu Suzuki on Space Harrier and Outrun and just bunches and bunches of Sega stuff. And it's just really great. Several of the tracks are just kind of remixes of one another.
Yeah.
But thankfully, that original theme song is such an earworm. That it's great. It's really great. So as far as individual tracks, the main theme is definitely the most memorable, but I think the round 2 theme is probably my favorite actual piece of music, which we'll put in here. And there's also a vocal version of the main theme for the Sega Ages release, which I didn't know existed. So I pulled up Fantasy Zone because I know it's got to be on my list. I'm trying to decide which track. I also love the boss music, but it's kind of boring. It's just really memorable to me.
Sure.
And I found this vocal version. So it was listed in some track listing, and I tracked it down on YouTube. And it's worth listening to. It was on the Sega Ages release on the Saturn.
Nice.
Here's a clip of that. It's so good and it's so goofy, and they take that main like brass instrument, whatever it is, and add lyrics to it.
Nice.
I have no idea what they're saying, but it's just such a fun soundtrack. Every version of it is great. I've listened to the NES one the most, but the Sega Ages versions are great. I like the NES version. It's a little less kind of bright sounding. Yeah. Because it's on an NES.
Well, the Tengen one is anyway. The Sunsoft one sounds a little different.
Yeah.
I probably played the Turbo version the most, and so that's the one that's stuck in my head anytime I think of Fantasy Zone music.
But just all the Fantasy Zone soundtracks are great, but the first one really is just fantastic.
Absolutely.
What's your first pick?
So first I'm going to go with Chrono Cross. Which, as a game, has never been nearly as beloved as Chrono Trigger, but the soundtrack is just gorgeous. And if it's a game you haven't played, you at least need to listen to the soundtrack because man, it is just an absolutely incredible soundtrack. I'm not sure there is a bad track in the game, and it does some things that I had no idea that the PS1 sound chip could do. It uses a lot of audio samples to simulate more realistic instrument sounds than just the standard MIDI of the PlayStation, and it's incredible. It's excellent. It's composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, who also was the lead composer on Chrono Trigger and Radical Dreamers. And as far as specific tracks, I did want to mention the opening track, Scars of Time. And it really just kind of sets the tone for the entire game. You get this slow intro with guitar and winds, and it just kind of calms you down. And then suddenly the bass line kicks in and the drums kick in, and it gets just really fast, really exciting. It's just incredibly well done. Just fantastic track.
And thankfully, you only need to turn the game on to hear that.
Right. Yeah, you get that just from turning on the game. And the other one I'm gonna mention is also pretty early in the game. Is it's called Dream of the Shore Near Another World. And it's the overworld theme from the Otherworld. And you probably have to get an hour or so in the game, maybe a little less than that, to get to it. And it's basically the same melody and similar instrumentation as the overworld theme from the main world, but it's just off. It's like a little more somber. It's a little... I think it's in a minor key instead of a major key, and it makes it sound just a little bit more sad and tense than the main world's overworld, and it hits you with that. It just makes you feel like something is different, even if you can't immediately figure out what it is, and that is really the point of the whole game, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's a really well done track there as well.
Yeah. My next one is Metal Slug 2. And this was SNK, released in arcade in 98. And I know I've talked about Metal Slug's music before. Because I might have talked about Metal Slug on the show before. And Metal Slug 2 is probably the weakest of the original 3 Metal Slug games. And I always do think about the first 3 as like their own trilogy. Because it was bad enough and had enough technical issues to warrant them a year later making Metal Slug X, which is just, hey, we took Metal Slug 2 and we fixed it. Sorry. But it still has a great soundtrack with some really great range, and it really runs the gamut from like full on action movie 90s butt rock to jazz to ambient background music without ever sounding strange or disjointed or weird.
Yeah.
This was composed by Takushi Hiyamura, who did a ton of SNK music, as well as a few R-Types, Half Minute Hero Second Coming, and the mobile meaning the Neo Geo Pocket Color King of Fighters games, R1 and R2. Judgment, which is the first level tune, is probably the best just generic rock that the franchise has, with just enough weirdness to make it memorable. It has this like... I don't even know what instrument it's supposed to be, but it's like this, like, kind of like whining, higher pitched instrument going on. And it's in like a Middle Eastern setting, and it really fits the tone, just like laying that on top of this like butt rock. And right after that level, you go right into the Cenotaph. Which is the track for the second level. And that's when you descend underground, and all of a sudden you're in this area full of like mummies and dog mummies, and it's very like Egyptian themed. And it takes that one weird instrument from the previous track and incorporates that into like some more chill kind of ambient atmospheric background music. And that transition alone is worth the price of admission. There's a lot of other really great tracks on this soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I feel like Metal Slug 2, and granted, I've only listened to the first 3 soundtracks a lot. The other 4 I've heard some of, not a lot. But even going into Metal Slug 3, it feels much more... I don't want to say cohesive, because I don't want to imply that this one is not cohesive, but it's much more homogenous, I guess I would say. It's much more just like, here's a bunch of generic butt rock.
Right.
And it's missing that kind of like weirdness that Metal Slug 2 had. Granted, it does hit some of that atmospheric stuff, but it's atmospheric in that kind of, it's almost forgettable kind of way.
Yeah.
Metal Slug 2 is the one that really kind of stands out for me, for sure.
Yes. A lot more variety to it.
Yeah, for sure. Like if it, just as far as like soundtracks, I want to sit down and actually listen to the whole thing of, and it's not just 12 tracks of butt rock. Yes, hey, Metal Slug.
What is wrong with 12 tracks of butt rock, sir?
How dare you say that about Jackal? It's with a Y, by the way. Yeah. I listened to Jackal's first album maybe 100,000 times.
Nice.
Anyway, what's your next pick, Saturn?
So I'm going to go with Silent Hill 2. I had to put a Silent Hill, and really I could have put the entire series on here, because, man, what an incredible set of music that entire series has. And the game is, meant to be terrifying, which it is. But the soundtrack goes back and forth between either... when you're in the scary areas, it's like this harsh industrial noises.
Yeah. And
when you're in the lighter areas, it's this very beautiful melodic music. And then occasionally, especially for like the FMVs, you get some butt rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an excellent combination of things. And for me, because I am occasionally a coward, when I'm playing a horror game, sometimes I'll just mute the audio because it's getting too tense and I can't have whatever terrifying droning sound is going on.
I was talking about this in the Discord the other day, and I'm so sensitive to horror audio that even when like a comedy is like doing a funny bit, but they use horror audio to make it like it's a horror based joke, it still scares me, and I still have to turn it off. And I like those horror stings that things use. Just hearing one of those upsets me. And I get scared.
Silent Hill never uses the sting. That is not a thing it does. Yamaoka is not a fan of that. He doesn't use the Hitchcock violins. He's not a fan of any of that, which is great because I find that just way overdone at this point.
Yeah.
So the composer is Akira Yamaoka, and he had been already composing for Konami for like a decade prior to Silent Hill, but just like little jobs and visual stage music here or there. And then after Silent Hill, he became the Silent Hill guy who did all of the Silent Hill soundtracks until Downpour. And they're all excellent. Anything that he has touched has been great. And I chose tracks specifically that aren't scary tracks. So that way,
thank goodness,
when people listen to them, exactly, these are sad tracks instead.
We just have to hope Pablo doesn't put in his own horror sting after the track.
He just keeps throwing in sounds of bats shrieking.
The least scary horror sound, bats shrieking.
Exactly. So the first one I'm going to mention is not even scary or sad. It's actually one of the most upbeat songs in the game, and yet it still comes off as kind of melancholy. So it's when you first turn on the game, you get the title screen, and there's no audio at all. It's silent when you're looking at the title screen, which makes sense because the name of the game has silent in it. And but if you leave it on that screen for a minute, then it goes into an intro video that just spoils like half the plot.
And that's where they show the hill.
You're right. That's where the hill is. You figured it out.
I did it.
But no, that's where this song plays. It's called Theme of Laura. It's the opening theme for it. It's this really emotional rock ballad, but with no lyrics, and it's just really gorgeous. Absolutely love it. And then the other one I wanted to mention is called Promise Reprise, which is like the saddest song ever. It's just this really tragic, somber, slow piano melody, and when it plays in the game is just a really sad moment to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's right after a really high intensity action sequence, and then something terrible happens, and rather than like immediately throwing you into another scary sequence, it just dumps you into a completely empty area with sad music, and it's just like, well, think about what you did for a while.
Stew in it.
And it's just so tragic and sad, and it hits me in the feels every single time. And so I had to throw that one in there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything in the Silent Hill franchise is excellent. Also, several of the games after Silent Hill 2 had vocals in their tracks, and the vocalist was Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, and all of the songs that she'd provided vocals for are excellent. So go find them too. They're all great butt rock. It's worth it.
I love that my only track with the vocals in this entire show It's gonna be Fantasy Zone theme with the vocals.
That's good.
My third pick is Donkey Kong Country. This was rare, Super Nintendo, 1994, and I might not love Donkey Kong Country just as a game. I don't hate it, I just don't love it. But the soundtrack is like next level good.
Oh yeah.
It is not only a great showcase of the kind of sound the Super Nintendo is capable of,
right,
but it's just a great soundtrack in general in video games, including today.
Yeah.
It's got these really great punchy drums and bright brass sections that really stand out, especially on the Super Nintendo, that always just kind of sounded kind of farty to me a lot of the time, you know?
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country puts out music that I would expect to hear out of a Genesis.
Yeah.
You know, just as far as how good it sounds.
Yeah.
And really all the percussion. If you like percussion in general, it's just fantastic. This was composed by David Wise and Eveline Fisher. Wise did the soundtracks for all three SNES DKC games and the DK Land games, and he was one of Rare's big composers from 1985 to 2009. Yeah. You've very possibly heard about David Wise before. Yeah. Pretty super duper famous composer. Right. As far as favorite tracks, the best track for me has got to be the title theme. It starts out like slow and 8-bit sounding. And it's Cranky Kong cranking this little phonograph. Gramophone. What's a phonograph?
It's the one without the crank, if I remember right.
All right.
I don't know.
Anyway, and then Donkey Kong bursts out and like knocks him off this little girder he's standing on. He's standing on like one of the girders, the red girders.
Yeah.
And it transitions into the new music. And that fake out transition was so exciting to me as a kid. I would put the game in and just watch it and listen to the song and just enjoy that little bit of music.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was fantastic. And probably the most celebrated track in Donkey Kong Country is Aquatic Ambiance. Because in addition to being known for just really awesome, punchy, upbeat tunes, Donkey Kong Country is known for some of the best ambient music of the era. And I'll say I didn't love Aquatic Ambiance when I was a kid. I remember playing as a kid and it like coming away from Donkey Kong Country. I was like, yeah, that wasn't a track that I remembered. And over the years, people have been like, oh yeah, the soundtrack's great, but oh my God, the water level soundtrack.
Right.
And going back to it as an adult, I've really come around on it. I appreciate it a lot more. I don't know if I've just calmed down as I've gotten older, and I just I listen to ambient stuff now. Right. You know, back then I did not.
Yeah,
I listened to Jackal.
Yeah.
So so coming from Jackal,
yeah,
you know, it was a little low key for me.
Yeah, it was a little too low.
But Aquatic Ambiance, that's my second track.
Excellent.
It's really great piece of music. The whole soundtrack is just so
absolutely
gosh darn good.
One of the best on the Super NES.
I also really love like the cave theme, like when you're in any kind of underground cave kind of theme area. It's just great. The sound effects are great. Every sound that game makes is top notch.
Yeah, the echo effect in that game is excellent.
Oh, it's great. What's your next one?
So I'm going to go with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. which
heard of this?
You may have heard of before.
Castlevania 5, as it's known.
Yes. Is it?
I guess it has to be 6. Would it be 6?
I guess
if you count Rondo and
if you don't, well, 7 if you count Bloodlines and.
Yeah, Bloodline. Castlevania 7, as it's known to all of its fans.
Right. So yeah, Castlevania as a series has always had great soundtracks. That's just a thing that it's always had. But Symphony of the Night went a different direction, whereas the earlier games were always these like real high energy tracks.
Yeah, your bloody tears.
Right. With Symphony, they went for more of this Baroque / rock soundtrack, which gives it its own flavor. And there is some tracks that are not that, and they're still good. And the composer for it was Michiru Yamane, who had also worked at Konami for about 10 years prior to this, just like Yamaoka had. And this is what, gave her the chance to really shine. Was she was able to do this more or less on her own. And she had since returned for several of the Castlevania soundtracks, as well as the soundtracks to the Bloodstained games, which are all just excellent. Very, very, very good.
Yeah.
As far as specific tracks, I went for a couple of later stage tracks. So the first that I picked was Wandering Ghosts. This is the one that plays in the Colosseum. And it's a pretty tough area that's filled with a lot of strong enemies, and it's upbeat butt rock. And I don't know why those two things mix together so well in my mind, but it makes me absolutely love that area. And so that one's a great track. And the other that I would say, one thing, if I have any complaint with the soundtrack for Symphony, it's that the back half of the game reuses tracks way too much. For the like 12 areas in the back half of the game, there's like 4 pieces of music.
Yeah.
And one of those tracks that it reuses a lot is Lost Painting. But it's such a good track that I don't care. It's one that I don't care that I have to hear in like 4 different areas because it's really good. It's this really slow, somber track that's just so well done that it's just it feels super beautiful, and it's just an incredibly well made song. And Symphony ended up being one of the first CD soundtracks that I bought separately from a game. And I still listen to that soundtrack every now and then just because of how many good tracks are on there.
Yeah. My next pick is Guardian Legend. And no, I won't stop talking about it. This was Compile NES 1988. This was composed by Masatomo Miyamoto and Takeshi Santo.
We're going to have to find a reason to mention Guardian Legend next episode just so we can go 3 in a row.
There you go. And I won't talk on it too much because I'm sure I talked on it a lot whenever we did our whole entire episode on it just last year. But the Snowy Field stage is really great. All the corridor tunes are really great in general, but this one really kind of sticks out to me as super catchy, especially in the whole soundtrack's really good about having these odd high notes every now and then.
Right.
That really make the tracks much more memorable than they would be otherwise. And it also has some of the best game over music this side of Mega Man password screens. It's just really great. I love how like sad and depressing it is when you die. And this soundtrack in general has just been kind of ingrained in me from a really young age. It continues to be one of my favorites. It's this sort of like, it has this weird kind of, I don't know, like this post-industrial sci-fi mechanical feel to it that really fits the theme of the game just so well. It's just a really good soundtrack paired perfectly to its subject matter.
And it uses the NES sound chip just beautifully.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excellently done.
What's your final pick here?
This is the fourth pick. There's still one more after this.
What's the fourth pick here? What's your fourth pick here, Saturn?
He's trying to rush us along.
Oh my gosh.
You're about to skip one.
Saturn, just tell me all of them right now. I can't wait.
Everything, all the music. So I'm going with Nier Automata.
Yes.
Which either of the Nier games could go there, but I decided to choose this one.
Can I admit something to you that I it's private? Don't tell anyone. So
don't worry, it's just you and me and anyone listening. It's fine.
You remember? It's just you and me, a couple listeners. You remember that Nier game on PS3?
Yeah, the first one.
So. Is Replicant a remake of that one?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Then the thing I would like to admit is that I thought Replicant was some type of third game.
No.
Previously, I thought it was a remake of PS3 Nier, but then I watched some videos and I was like, this looks nothing like PS3 Nier.
So here's what happened. When the first Nier game came out in Japan, they released two different versions. One was called Nier Replicant and one was called Nier Gestalt. And the one on Xbox was Gestalt, and the one on PS3 was Replicant. And the PS3 version featured a young protagonist trying to save his sister, and the Xbox version featured an old man protagonist trying to save his daughter. And when the game released internationally, they chose to only release the Gestalt version and ignore the Replicant version. So it's the exact same game, but with an adult protagonist instead of a kid protagonist.
I see.
Yes.
All right, then. Confusion.
It's hilarious because some of the lines are clearly written with the kid in mind instead of the father. And my favorite is when you save this character Kaine at one point, and you're trying to cheer her up and make her feel better. And one of the support characters says, you've got something to live for. That's what your friends are for. And the hero character says, yes, and we're friends now. And when it's a little kid saying it, that makes sense. Kids get excited. But when it's like a 40-year-old dude saying it, it's hilarious. I love that bit.
And we're friends now.
Yes, it's so great.
All right, anyway, go ahead with Nier.
So I'm going with Automata. For both games, the composer invented a fake language called Chaos Language, which is not a language that is spoken, nor does it have any kind of direct translation. And all of the vocals for all of the tracks in both games are in Chaos Language. So it's a fictional language that the woman who sings it just goes along with. And that's the weirdest shit to me. I mean, I get that people have made fake languages for shit before. Lord of the Rings famously has.
How dare you? I literally have a dwarvish keyboard in front of me.
Right,
Well
exactly.
aware of dumb fake languages.
Right. But it feels somehow different to like compose a whole soundtrack out of fake language for some reason.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're all just really beautiful, melodic, and often sad songs, which fits the game. Composer is Keiichi Okabe, and I believe the vocalist is Emmy Evans. I forgot to write her name down, but I think that's her name. And they're all just done incredibly well. And Keiichi Okabe had previously worked for Namco for a long time making soundtracks for arcade games, and I have no idea why they were just fucking wasting his talent at that. Because once he started working on the Nier games, it's clear he has some real serious chops, and all the music is great. And he did not need to be writing for Ridge Racer. But
was he the guy that wrote the part where they go Ridge Racer?
Maybe. I'm going to assume yes. Only if he had... No, it couldn't have been him because he would have done it in a stupid fake language.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. All right, yeah.
So the tracks that I chose, the first one, I'm going to try to pronounce this. I think it's called Yuen Shisetsu, which is ironically not written by Keiichi Okabe. It's written by a guy named Keigo Hoashi. And it's the track played when you're in the amusement park area.
Yes.
And it's that whole area is weird because the enemies don't try to fight you. They just want to dance and throw confetti. And it's just this weird, surreal area. And it's got this eerily upbeat, but very sad music. And it's just gorgeous. And the other one I have to mention is Weight of the World, which is the track that plays during the game's ending credits. And if you get one of the joke endings, it plays so quickly you can't hear it. But if you get any of the regular endings, it plays at normal speed in either Chaos Language or Japanese or English, depending on which ending you got.
Yeah.
But it's so great. Definitely listen. I would say even if you don't normally listen to things in other languages, listen to the Japanese language version of it, because the woman who sings it gets so emotional that she breaks down crying halfway through, and it's heart-wrenching.
した罪の深さが
Yeah. I'm surprised you did not choose the music from the Little Robot Village in the Forest.
I did think about that one. Yeah, I do love that
one's
song
good.
as well. I was going between that one and the amusement park, and I decided to go with the amusement park.
Yeah.
But yeah, I as an aside, just talking about Nier, I wish that Japan would stop putting their female lead characters in outfits that are clearly just matching whatever their current kink is, because I want to be able to recommend games without having an asterisk there.
You know, Yoko Taro, I almost give a pass to.
Yeah.
Because he's just come out before and just been like, I like looking at attractive women.
Right.
You know? Like,
yeah, at least he's honest about it.
It's somehow less pervy when he's just like, I like looking at butts. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just makes it feel a little more like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your game. You're making it. Fucking fine,
Right.
dude. But yeah, it is.
And at least
it
all
is-
the women characters he writes are strong, well-developed characters, even if they are dressed like sex dolls. I just wish that I could recommend these games to people without saying, I hope you're okay with a woman dressed like a sex doll.
I had not picked up Replicant because I saw the costume of one of the main female characters.
Kaine, yeah.
and it was so bad that I was like, man, I really don't want to play that in front of my wife and kid. Like, I mean, my wife doesn't care, but I really don't want to like play.
It is awkward, yeah.
And so now I can play it on deck.
Right. So, and now nobody has to see your shame.
Now I can quietly be a pervert. I don't know. It's always really upset me. I try to not let it ruin my enjoyment of games. A lot of it boils down for me to the character, you know, like Bayonetta never bothered me.
Right.
Because she was at least fully aware of what she looked like, and she owned that, and she had agency, and that was fine.
Yeah.
But when it's these characters where it's like there's literally no reason, there's no story reason, and I don't know about Replicant. Maybe there is a story reason.
There is a story reason. It's not in the game though.
And I don't mean a Kojima story reason.
No. It's a legit story reason.
Okay.
It's just in one of the many novels that was released alongside the game to explain its backstory.
Like, that's okay, but when it's just like literally random and for no reason, I'm like, there's just why do I have to do that? Why?
And one thing I'll say is there is one character in the game that occasionally makes jokes about her outfit, and that makes it slightly better for me.
That helps some too. Like if someone else is like, why are you dressed like that? Like that's okay.
There's a scene where you're about to go to a wedding, and one of the characters says to her, "Oh, are you going to bring your best negligee?" That was great. That's a great line.
If you work it into the game and it's part of the story, okay. I'm not you know, I'm not against people being scantily clad in a video game, but when it's so obviously just like I always do it because we could.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Stop.
I at least wish there was an option to turn off the fan service. That's all I want.
At least dress the male characters like they're going on stage with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, you know?
In fairness, the father version of Nier never finds a shirt the entire game.
Yeah, like I want his balls to be hanging out of his pants. Like just the bottom halves of his balls.
Yeah.
You can't see the whole balls.
Right.
But they're just in real tight spandex and the bottoms of them are just kind of hanging out, you know.
You occasionally see their shadow as he's walking. Yeah.
I just put something in there. Come on.
Well, the younger Nier, once he becomes an adult in the second half of the game, he wears assless chaps, but he's wearing some white shorts underneath, so it doesn't count.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Put his ass out there.
Exactly.
All right? I want equal opportunity asses, I think is what I'm saying. Okay.
Needs to be more dude ass is what we're saying.
My final pick.
Dude ass.
We said we weren't ranking them, but I'm going to say this is the best video game soundtrack ever made. Is Mega Man X. Released by Capcom, Super Nintendo, 1993. This was composed by Toshihiko Horiyama.
Okay.
Other credits include Demon's Crest, a ton more Mega Man games, and a bunch of Ace Attorney games. This entire soundtrack is outstanding.
Oh yeah.
And Mega Man has always had allusions to you know, rock music. That's kind of the whole like theme of Mega Man.
Wait,
know?
Are you saying that a series with characters named Rock and Roll?
I know, it's shocking.
Yeah.
But Mega Man X was when it really felt like the music kind of came into what the franchise wanted to be musically.
Right. They finally had the hardware to back it up.
Yeah, the previous games all had fantastic soundtracks, but this is the first time that I heard this video game soundtrack, and I was like, this is rock music. This is like heavy metal rock music. This isn't an NES interpretation of us doing our best version of rock music. Yeah. This is it. And it really helps convey the like edgelordy vibe that Mega Man X is going for.
Yeah.
Which maybe it doesn't. I feel like as the years have rolled on, maybe Mega Man X feels less edgelordy than it did back then. But
it definitely felt that way when it
was
out.
Like it was like the Crow of video games. It's like we're taking this like cute little guy, and then now look, he's all dark and angry looking. He gets armor and he slides like it's
and his friend has a sword.
Yeah, and if someone dies, like it's just the. Maybe it's just because I played it when I was. This is the most edgelordy thing I'd encountered when I was fucking, let's see, 5.
5-year-old edgelords running around.
Listening to Jackal playing Mega Man X. My favorite track is Power Plant. It's Spark Mandrill's stage.
Yeah. It's not Armored Armadillo?
Yeah, I also love Armored Armadillo, but if I were to pick one track from Mega Man X, it's Power Plant. I mean,
That's fair.
Hands down, fantastic piece of music. This whole song just really rocks in all the best ways.
Oh yeah.
It is the epitome of like the first time I remember hearing a video game and going, "Oh, this is real music.
Yeah.
This isn't video game beeps and boops. This is real music."
Yeah.
You know, and really, I was probably playing it when I was like, I guess 7, probably would have been 95, 96. So I would have been 7 or 8 years old when I was playing Mega Man X.
Nice.
Which was my first Mega Man. So I didn't even get to experience the older Mega Man and see the transition. So to me, old Mega Man has always been dopey, lame Mega Man.
You take that back.
That's make me. Power Plant's fantastic. All the music in it is fantastic.
Now let me ask you the hard question about Mega Man X.
Yeah.
What is the worst song in the game, and why is it Boomer Kuwanger's theme?
Boomer Kuwanger's track is much more subdued.
Yeah, it's not
than the rest
it's not
of them.
bad. It just feels weak among the others.
I think it's the worst track on a great soundtrack.
Yeah,
you know, which isn't to say I don't think it's bad music, but yeah, compared to Sting Chameleon, to Armored Armadillo,
right? Even Chill Penguin.
Even Chill Penguin, God, Launch Octopus is really good too, man. This whole stage is really good. It's all great, but Spark Mandrill's stage, like, just fantastic, kick-ass rock music.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
What's your last one?
Katamari Damacy.
Yes. I almost put this one down, but I came to Katamari so late that I was like, Saturn will probably put it. I'm going to let him put it.
Oh, yeah. I loved this game. I picked this up when it came out. It was a budget game when it came out.
Yeah.
And so my expectations were like real low. I was like, $20 PS2 game, whatever. But oh man, what a delight. And the soundtrack is got to be like 90% of the experience. Mm-hmm. It's so good. I mean, the game overall is great. It's quirky, it's goofy, it's fun. And that soundtrack ties it all together. It takes it from like this quirky, goofy game to this quirky, goofy masterpiece.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not sure that I would remove any song from the soundtrack because it's all varied. It's not all the same thing. The soundtrack goes all over the place, and yet any track fits perfectly with the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so well done. The lead composer was Yu Miyake, who had been working with Namco since the late 90s. And he's also contributed to some of the recent Persona games, which also easily could have made this list, by the way. And I honestly feel a little guilty that Persona didn't make our list.
You know, when it came down to it, I was like, I can't just put 5 Sega games. I was gonna, because I mean, great. I grew up playing Nintendo games. I love Nintendo games, but when it comes to soundtracks,
oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, Nintendo definitely has the most iconic, but if I'm going to sit down and listen to a soundtrack, it's probably not going to be Mario 3.
Right.
As much as I love Mario 3,
I
love the
Mario
sounds
3.
in Mario 3. Yeah, so we really could have just sat here.
Persona is still Atlus, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of Sega now, but it's
True.
Atlus.
True.
But no, so the tracks that I chose from Katamari, which I could have chosen literally any of them because they're all great, but the ones specifically that I chose were Que Sera Sera. Which is my favorite track from the original Katamari. It's this goofy lounge music song.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just destroying the landscape, which is what you do in Katamari.
Yeah.
And this dude is just casually singing about wadding you up into his life.
I know you love me. I want to wad you up into my life. Let's roll up to be a single star in the sky. I hear you calling me. I want to wad you up into my life. Let's love up to make a single star in the sky.
And it's great. And I love that track.
My favorite part about Katamari is that when you roll up people, they scream in horror.
Yes. Oh, so great.
And it's it's this very slight nod toward horror in an otherwise very upbeat and colorful game. People are just like, "Oh my god!" Like you just roll them up.
Once you get that big, where you're clearly a threat, and there is no question that you're about to destroy everybody, and everybody starts running from you, and then the police start shooting at you, and then all you hear is screams and gunfire, and then there's this lounge music song in the background.
Behind it, it's na 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 na.
It's so great. And then the other song that I chose to pick, which is a just super laid back, peaceful track, is called Cherry Tree Times. And it's a song that's sung by a bunch of children, which I know sounds inherently terrifying. But it's not. It comes off really sweet and calming. And I mean, for all I know, the lyrics are about murder, because I assume that's all children talk about all the time. But
I have a kid. It's a lot of murder.
Yeah, it's just mostly murder. But it's just such a peaceful, laid back track to listen to while you're decimating a population.
Yeah,
it's just great. And also the sequel, We Heart Katamari, has a fantastic soundtrack as well. I don't remember soundtracks to games after those first two nearly as well as those first two. But man, the soundtracks of those first two are just fantastic. Amazing, absolutely worth listening to.
I have one honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm looking at your kind of honorable mentions, I have more. But they're yours, so you can have them. But it's Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing has amazing music.
Yeah. And KK Slider makes it even better.
me oh, oh na me oh, na me oh, que, oh na me oh, me oh, me oh. Oh, na me oh, oh na me oh, me que, na me oh na, me oh que.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's great ambient tunes, because it's built to be ambient tunes. For people that don't know, the song changes a little bit every hour, and the later at night it becomes, the more chill and relaxed the music becomes, and then the closer into the middle of the day you're getting, the more kind of upbeat it becomes. But at the end of the day, honestly, all the Animal Crossing games kind of run together for me, and all the songs are sort of samey-ish because it's all just doing this same chill ambient thing.
Yeah.
And while I love them to death, and I do listen to Animal Crossing music a lot, there's actually a website, I forget what it is, but you go to it and it plays that hour of whatever day, whatever hour is the time of Animal Crossing music. But as far as like, hey, I want to sit down and listen to a soundtrack, like actively I'm listening to this music, it's more ambient background, chilling, hanging out, reading a book kind of music for me.
That's fair.
But
which is nothing wrong with that kind of music.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you there. Man, as soon as I finished my list, I was like, oh my God, I left all of these things off.
Yes.
Just off the top of my head, I didn't put in a Final Fantasy, which I should have. Mario, Zelda, Dragon Quest.
Yep.
Persona 5. That is one of the best soundtracks ever made.
Yeah.
The song Baba Yetu from Civ 4, which if you haven't heard it, is just so emotional and incredible. It's I believe it's in Swahili. It's the Lord's Prayer sung in Swahili.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. The Street Fighter and 8-bit Mega Man soundtracks, all fantastic. And Little Nemo.
Street Fighter was hard for me to not put on here because Street Fighter's what a good soundtrack.
And Street Fighter Alpha as well. Those are excellent. And the Marvel Capcom games are all excellent soundtracks.
Yeah.
And Super NES SimCity. Holy shit, that's great. And SimCity 3000 and The Sims.
Yes.
I have a really hard time limiting this because I really love a ton of video game music. And I really wanted to pick specific ones that I didn't think literally everyone had heard 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But man, there's some good stuff out there.
My final honorable mention is Jackal with a Y. Pablo, put in 3 seconds of Jackal right here. There you go. My final honorable
what we needed.
mention.
And if you want to hear more of Jackal,
we have a Patreon. Saturn did the awkward transition. Patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where we've never talked about Jackal before right now.
If you want to not hear us talk about Jackal,
you can get uncut versions of this episode where Saturn talks about his first ambulance ride. You can get
last episode.
Last episode.
Yeah.
You can get Talking Wizards. You can get After Hours. And you can also get our eternal gratitude in the form of us saying a thing you write in an internet form given a relatively small character limit. Which we would like to do now, starting by thanking Craig C.
and Neil Hayes.
John Fry.
Pogs are back.
Robert Vieira Jr.
FreeCodeCamp.org, Quincy Larson.
Elson Raves.
Keith Reynolds.
A huge Earthbound fan, excited to try it for the first time.
Surely they've tried it by now. And Fryskungen.
Are all the people we want to thank for making everything possible around here. And we want to thank you for rating and reviewing the show, which you're going to do, right? You're going to do it? Are you going to?
And also just for listening. That's pretty cool, too.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Gosh. I also want to thank Pablo for meticulously adding in YouTube tracks that we just stuck. We're not doing any of the work. We just put tracks in the notes, and we're just going to hope Pablo miraculously turns it into a cool, listenable, well-edited show.
I'm really looking forward to like every time that you mention that he was going to put things in as just a clip of him going, nope.
No, couldn't find that one. You're dumb. Maybe he'll try to make up that he'll be like boop boop doop boop 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 boop.
Nice.
It's just some video game beeps and boops is fine. Saturn, I want to thank you. I was out of town for 4 days and you just literally did the notes. You didn't write my soundtrack picks. That would be kind of weird. Why did I pick 5 Dragon Quest games? This is bizarre. But you did a whole bunch of work and a whole bunch of notes and research and stuff while I was just in New Jersey, mostly drunk, if I'm being honest.
Nice.
And it was a good
that's
time.
what you're in New Jersey. You have to live as the Romans do.
We did reach a point in New Jersey where I didn't know where I was in New Jersey, and we had no car, and we had been drinking, and I was like, man, it's that kind of panicky moment where you're like, I'm thousands of miles away from home. I don't know where I am. I'm not sober.
Can't say I've ever had that moment. No.
Thankfully, Ubers exist, and they know where you are, and they'll take you where you think you want to be.
Right.
So anyway, stay tuned after the ending credits. Yes. Guys here, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together. Hi, welcome to the after party. Guys here, I just unmuted him in Discord, so hopefully he's still here somewhere, not off getting a sandwich.
Wait, why did you mute me in Discord?
Well, earlier, I kept hearing like some background noise, and I couldn't tell if it was you or not, so I muted you just in case.
Oh, wow.
I did not hear what you were talking about, so I didn't notice one way or another.
I inherently blamed you.
Oh, maybe
it
I
might have
farted.
Been me. That's a callback for people who
uncut callback.
Yeah, for people who didn't listen to the uncut, it's not just us laughing at the word farted, though we probably would have.
I also was just laughing at the word farted. So
about 50 minutes into the episode, I made an appearance. It probably puts it in.
You did. Were you still recording? Oh yeah, because you're doing the after party. You would have.
That's right.
Recording.
Yeah, you.
Well, now I feel bad.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I had. No, I heard him.
What?
Oh, right. You're only muting him on your end.
Yeah, you muted me on Discord. Yeah.
Oh.
You didn't hear what I said, which is fine because it worked well with what you were doing.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, well, now I'm curious. Now I got to listen to the whole episode. So don't tell me what it was. I don't want to know.
Okay.
And then tell me why it was just a fart noise.
Sure. I'll do that.
What do you got for us this month, guy?
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was going to be recording a show today. What do you mean? What do I got for you this month?
Make it up. Just perform.
Mary May 17th, guy. It's Mary May 17th.
I got engaged.
You did. Congratulations.
You did get engaged. How exciting.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's funny, too. I was telling this story to lots of people at one point, but like I had planned on our anniversary to ask Kristen, to marry me or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the hockey season was coming to an end, right? Mm-hmm. And there were playoff games, and I was explaining to Saturn earlier how like when the playoffs come around, you don't know what the schedule is going to be until that round starts, right?
Right, because they just got to play while there's ice, and it's going to melt in the summer. So
that's exactly it. It has nothing to do with scheduling and not knowing who your opponent is, but sure.
Great.
Anyway, so about a week and a half before our anniversary, or maybe it was like 4 or 5 days before. I think it was the weekend before. Anyway, so I was like, okay, so on Wednesday, if there's not a hockey game, then we'll go to dinner. And if there is a hockey game, we'll go to lunch, right? And in my head, like what I was thinking was either way, it'll be a nice meal and, we'll go out, we'll have a good time, we'll celebrate our anniversary, and then we'll go on this date to this hockey game, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't entirely how it was received.
Oh, no.
Kristen came back about an hour later. She's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to go schedule a gym class that night then. And in my head, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, it's like you could do it any other time. It's not a big deal. But it's still, it's like you've got this plan and you're like, oh, geez.
Right. And I was like, I'm freaking out. Like, one, because she's kind of mad because I'm like, hey, hockey's more important than our anniversary.
Oh, no. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And then on the other hand, I'm also panicking because I've planned to ask her to marry me on this day.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm like, no. Okay. I want you to know that I want to spend Wednesday with you. I'm just not sure where that is, and we already have plans if it happens to be that day. Otherwise, we'll make other special plans. So we got that all worked out or whatnot.
That's good.
We communicated like adults do.
Right.
What?
What?
You didn't just yell at each other and storm out like in every romantic comedy where your thing could have been easily solved by just communicating for like 1 fucking second?
Oh, that drives you nuts too?
Yeah.
I can't watch those movies. They walk in and they're like, what is going on here? And they storm out, and someone could have easily just been like, oh, well, as you can see, I spilled my drink all over her on accident, so I was helping her with the towel. She's got soda all down the front of her, and she's very angry. We weren't banging. And I'm like, just take 1 second. Just for 1 second.
Right.
Listen.
The worst part is I've been in relationships exactly like those romantic comedies.
Fucking house. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't know any of your exes, but I assume they're all just cartoon characters. That's the only thing I can imagine anymore.
Yeah, this is my waifus.
Is that my waifu? All right, yeah, okay, yeah, great, love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was an adventure, and we learned how to communicate a little bit better. It's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
But yeah, we ended up going to the zoo. We went to dinner that night, and she had told me beforehand. She was like, "Look, just don't propose to me at a hockey game." And really, even like at dinner is a little bit too much attention on me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great. So like, we found an isolated spot in the zoo where she was looking at a turtle.
Nice.
And I think I mentioned once or twice that she's from Florida, and there was like a crocodile across the way or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this is the most Florida part of the zoo I can fucking find. So let's just do this.
Hold on, can I guess how you proposed?
Yeah, all right, sure.
Okay, I imagine that she was looking at the turtle, and you went, "Would you marry that turtle?" And she went, "No." And then you go, "Well, would you marry that alligator?" And she goes, "No." And then you go, "Well, would you marry me?" And then you got down on the one knee. Is that what happened?
Oh man, that would have been way better.
I got a lot of good proposals. I thought about mine for a long time. So I had one that was an elaborate kidnapping scheme that involved grave digging.
Oh, good.
no.
Yeah, that's normal.
Didn't do that one.
That's good.
Didn't do that one.
I'd be more excited if it included the monster truck grave digger.
Yeah, grave digger was there. He's the one you were digging the grave for all along. Now dig a monster truck sized grave or I'll kill you. Anyway, how did you tell?
Well, she was kneeling down looking at this turtle because it was kind of like below us, right?
Yeah.
So I kneeled down behind her and like just kind of whispered in her ear.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that was that. She said yes. We kissed for a long time. We had a turtle as a witness.
Nice.
Yeah,
Sweet.
it was sweet.
Oh, dude. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, the second part of the story is we went to Texas Day Brazil for the second half of our
Nice.
sort of date day.
Yeah.
And I realized like when Tracy and I used to go out, we would get seated or whatever, sort of in the middle of the restaurant, kind of sometimes towards the front or whatnot. But when we start bringing our kids, we always got sat in the back of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Well, and that makes sense. I suppose you want to hide the children in the back or whatnot.
Hide the children. That's the whole societal thing about like, let's pretend not everyone was previously a kid is still weird to me.
For me, it's more that I don't want to accidentally be profane in front of someone else's kids, so I don't want to sit too close to someone else's kids.
Yeah, I get like real annoyed when people get annoyed because a child is being a child,
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
part.
I'm like, let them. On my flight into Jersey, there was a kid just going berserk, and you could tell there were people that were very upset about it. And I'm like, dude, just fuck. I mean,
Right.
it sucks.
Yeah,
All right, I'm
just-
sorry, but
Just
like,
gonna ride it out.
Don't be shitty about it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Where was I going with my story? I don't remember.
The seating in the
Right. So, well, after we broke up or whatnot, got divorced. That's the grown up
That's the
term.
word, yeah.
After we got divorced, like I noticed that when I go to restaurants by myself, I still get sat at the back, and I really couldn't figure out why for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And I've come to the conclusion that maybe it's just I'm brown. Because when I go with
oh no,
when I go, or maybe it's just because I'm by myself. Whatever.
It could, okay. To be fair, I can see it being a by yourself thing because when you're running a restaurant, you don't want like a bunch of lonely sad sacks all sitting in front of your restaurant when people walk by the window and you're just sitting there by yourself looking at your phone. They want to see like, young attractive couples on exciting dates. So I can see the argument for that. I've never run a restaurant, but
and like I guess Kristen's got visible tattoos, so when we go together, we always get sat kind of towards the back, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like a post-COVID thing where everybody sits towards the back or they're spacing seating out. I don't know. I'm not trying to blame anybody for anything or whatnot, but
listen here, Wendy from Wendy's, if you don't stop sitting guy in the back of your Wendy's.
But this time we got sat in the back
chili.
of like Texas Day Brazil, where they just bring meat out from the kitchen and slice it for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So we got sat by the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we got like the real good meat.
First cut of the meat.
Yeah. It was like all hot and yum.
It was all hot.
Yum.
that hot meat. We got the hot meat this time.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys have been to a Brazilian steakhouse or know how they work.
Oh yeah.
I've been once or twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot, but I think literally twice. Actually, maybe just once.
My boss used to take us to a Brazilian steakhouse called Rodizio every year as a thank you. And then during COVID, Rodizio decided that they wanted to shut down some of their restaurants, and so their closest location to us now is Chicago.
Oh, no.
So it's a long drive to get there now?
Yeah, we're not going to be able to go to Rodizio anymore. He's pretty upset about it. We're trying to find some other Brazilian steakhouse that is closest to our office that we can, hit during lunch and then get back to the office, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You'd have to go to like, not Allen. What's that place that's off Addison? Addison's the place I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we could probably, even that's pretty far because we're over in the Irving area.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So for any of our listeners who don't know what a Brazilian steakhouse is, basically, if you like meat, go there. Is what it boils down to.
Right.
Because it's just a bunch of people. Basically, they take giant cuts of meat, like an entire leg of a cow, for example, almost. Your various different cuts, and they have various kinds of meats. They put it over like an open fire, put some rock salt and pepper on it, and just let it cook in its own juices.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing. And then they just walk around the entire restaurant with meat and slice you some and ask you if you want it. They give you a little button that you put on your table, and as long as it's green,
it's your meat button.
Yeah. They're just bringing you meat constantly. So if you've never been to Brazilian steakhouse and you like meat, go.
You should go. And before you ask, listener, it doesn't matter how much you say you'll tip them. They will not let you take a bite directly off the hunk of meat. They insist on cutting it for you.
Yeah.
So if that's a deal breaker, which I think it should be.
Also, your first time that you go, there's always that awkward moment when you don't know how to properly receive the meat as they're cutting it. Because some of the guys expect you to kind of like half pick it up with some tongs or with a fork or something. And other guys just want to put it right over your plate and cut it onto there. And if you're not ready for it and you don't know what style that guy is going for, you could just be like sitting there staring and he's staring at you and nobody knows when the meat's going to happen.
Yeah. You could just lay on the table with your mouth open.
Well,
that's pretty indicative of like, this is what I want.
Yeah, anytime we went to Rodizio, we would always bring like some of the extra people from the office that weren't part of our department but had helped us during the year. And my boss would treat them to lunch with the rest of us. And every year, one of my coworkers would try every ounce of energy he had to convince them to eat the chicken hearts. And I tried it one time. The first time we went, I was like,
and you gained its power.
Yeah, I'll gain that chicken's power.
I'm one chicken stronger.
Saturn is now scared of everything. That's the chicken power.
Right.
But he's one chicken stronger. Look,
right.
Eating the one
I was
chicken
already
heart,
scared of everything.
The payoff's not great, but if you eat about like 70 chicken hearts, 70 chickens is pretty strong.
Power of 70 chickens.
Just ask Link.
It's the power of 10 gorillas. No, so if you haven't had chicken heart, it's very chewy.
Oh yeah, it's a heavily worked muscle.
Yeah, it's not like great for eating. I'm gonna say that it's not bad. I mean, it's just meat, but it's not great. But that guy really, like, he relishes the idea of watching people eat it for the first time for some reason. I've never understood that.
I get annoyed sometimes because I worked at a place where I served drinks for a living for 5 years. I worked at a coffee shop for 5 years, so all I did was hand people drinks. Right. And there's very specific rules on like how you hand people drinks. And if it's ever a situation where the person receiving the drink doesn't need to touch the drink, then they shouldn't touch the drink. They should let the person set it down.
Right.
Because then you risk their hand interfering with the other hand and it getting knocked over.
Right.
And also, whenever you hand someone a drink, you try to hold it in such a way that they can get a full grip on the middle of the beverage.
Right.
Right. So kind of like, yeah. And I get annoyed whenever I get handed drinks badly at restaurants. I'm like, stop, it's a table, just set it down. Or they'll insist on handing it to me. And I'm like, I'm just sitting here. I don't want to grab it from you and then we're going to drop it. Just please just set it down. Don't hand it to me. Just set it down and I'll say thank you and then you can be done.
The first time that I went to Texas Day, Brazil with a friend of mine, I had just ordered a diet soda because that's, all I needed. And so they bring me a Diet Coke and the dude presents me this tiny aluminum bottle of Diet Coke as if it's like a fine wine. Like he presents
like
it.
He comes out and holds it. Yeah. All right, I'm with you.
And he presents the Diet Coke and then he just sets it down next to a glass of ice. And I'm like,
Diet Coke, sir.
This was the most ornate diet soda I've ever purchased.
Now, obviously, you picked it up and you smelled it and you said it's a good year, right? Because
yeah, it was.
You fucking had to at that point.
No, it was Diet Coke. It still tasted like trash.
Man, Andrew and I got back from the airport. He missed his flight and he had to fly with me. And we like got Whataburger when we got off the plane. He drank his Diet Coke and he goes, "Oh, it's flat and gross." And I was like, "So Diet Coke?"
Right.
We're way over on time. Guy, thank you for being here for the after party.
You're welcome.
Congratulations on your pending marriage.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Calling it pending makes it sound ominous.
Right.
I meant that to sound positive, but it sounds ominous now. Your pending marriage. Your upcoming marriage.
There you go.
Pending sounds like a lawsuit you have going on your upcoming marital litigation. I wish you luck.
Marriage is contingent on getting to it.
Anyway, and thank you, listener, for being just that, listener of the show. That's what you are. Anyway, thanks. Good night. Bye.
Bye.